If you have a boat that's pre-1980, 1970s, well, you're going to want to watch this episode. This episode's all about how do you put a new rub rail on your old sailboat. Hi, I'm Joe, and welcome to MotorCity Boat Works. Let's get to work. Welcome back to my shop. If you're new to the channel, I want to welcome you. And if you're one of our returning subscribers, thank you so much for your support. I especially want to take a moment to thank the workers, those of you who are supporting the channel through Patreon. I really appreciate it. This week, I'm going to be working on the Skipper 20 sailboat. I'm going to be reinstalling a new rub rail on the boat. If you have an old sailboat, this is probably a project that you're going to have to do someday. If you have a boat that's pre-1980, 1970s, well, you're going to want to watch this episode. This episode's all about how do you put a new rub rail on your old sailboat. This is the rub rail on the Skipper 20. If you notice, take a look at the top of it here. See, it's got a rough texture. This is dry rot, right? It's breaking down from the ultraviolet. I mean, this is 40 years old, so it's completely, coming apart. So what we want to do, and plus we've got a big gouge taken out of here where that side motor mount clamp was on here. So what we want to do is remove this, but I was worried that this was not the extruded shape that I've been finding in the stores. And I've actually found a replacement one at Earl the Pearls. So we're gonna take this off. We'll get a brand new rub rail, and that'll make painting this way easier. So let's take this as a sample, and we'll go to Marine Sales and Repair, my secret boat parts warehouse in Detroit, and visit my friend Earl and see if he won't have a replacement. I'm pretty sure he does. Scott and I were talking about this recently. That's the profile that we need. Awesome. It can be difficult trying to match something online. It's much better if you can actually get hands-on and go through a couple different samples. Sometimes it takes a little bit of detective work, but once you have a piece of the old rub rail, you should be able to use it to get the profile of what the new piece of rubber needs to look like. It's just a matter of finding something that matches. It may not always be 100%, you just got to get close. Basically a piece of rubber channel with a rope insert. This stuff is typically sold by the foot, so you'll be smart if you get an exact measurement of how much you're going to need so you don't overpay. Don't forget to make sure that you have matching rope for the insert. All right, so what we're going to do is we got to bring this rub rail all the way around here, covering the whole deck joint, okay? And previously it was mechanically fastened. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to put screws in about every, 6 to 8 inches all the way around. But because this boat has a rounded stern, we've got to start here at the bow, at the stem head here, and that's where we're going to hide the joint. The joint will be up behind this piece right here. You won't see it. And this then has to come along here, basically like so. And I don't know if you could tell, but there's a little lip here. There's a lip that catches on here. And that's what we've got to get on here. But this is going to be really challenging to do this. So I have some other episodes where I talk about installing a different sort of rub rail on the Ep127 pocket trawler inside the boat Werks. You're going to want to also check that out. I've mentioned it before, in these old boats there are 3 different types of hull deck joints. The hull deck joint is where the hull meets the deck, and it's assembled at the factory. The type of hull deck joint you have will determine the type of rub rail and how the rub rail is actually attached to the hull. In the case of the Skipper 20 sailboat, the hull deck joint is what's called a shoebox. The top deck actually sets over the hull, very similar to the lid on a shoebox. This is a very robust design. It's really got a lot of strength. On this boat, because of the way the hull deck joint is constructed, you can attach the rub rail directly to the hull using some stainless steel screws. Not all boats are like this. Now I make my measurements and my sketches and my parts list available to the workers. All you have to do is go over to Patreon, sign up, Even if you can't support the channel right now, sign up as a free worker because sometimes I give away free information. Today in the Boat Works, we're getting ready to work on the rub rail for the Skipper 20 sailboat. That's what this is right here. It's about, I don't know, 65 feet of this rub rail channel here. The problem is that, you know, when it comes from the manufacturer, when it's sold, it's rolled up on a spool. And just like the rub rail on the Ep127, you know, it has its own kind of bend to it, and it's got to be kind of unraveled and straightened out a little bit so that you can work with it. It's very hard rubber, and no matter how much heat you apply to it, well, it has a tendency to go back to what it was. It's got to kind of slowly be stretched out over time. Inside the Boat Works, it's relatively cool in here. We're just now entering summer, so this may have to sit outside for a period of time and get a little bit of sun on it. But to stretch this thing out, I'm kind of using this process here. I've got my cart, and by sticking the rub rail down inside here, I'm kind of able to like bend it and try and get it to straighten out a little bit. Now it's working a little bit. That's the straightened out section. This is the coiled section here. You can see how twisty it is. This is kind of a mechanical process of just... Trust me when I say there's only two ways to get hard rub rail like this to lay flat, stretch out. You got to use heat and you got to put some force behind it, find some mechanical way to straighten this thing out. In cooler climates, a little heat gun is not going to do it. I know it's tempting to skip this step. But if you don't do this, it'll be virtually impossible to actually put it back on the boat. Now, if you're in a warmer location, you could probably leave this outside for a couple days. It'll warm up very nicely. But we don't have that type of weather here, and we're not in the deepest part of summer yet, so it's just not warm enough to be able to do that. So what I think I'm gonna do is we're gonna get it like this and then maybe set it outside where it can warm up over time. All right, so we got a good start here. We got several of them going here. This is my ruler here that I'm using to measure between the screws. It's about 8 inches. We put it on here, we mark the spot, and then line this up. It goes against the hull. Basically, like so. And then I drill a hole. Through the rubber, start it into the fiberglass, right here. Just a little bit, okay. And then put a bit of marine sealant on here. Just a dab. Just so the water gets in there. Now, in this case, I'm using 1/2-inch stainless steel screws. I probably could have used 3/4 in a couple places, but I think the 1/2-inch, you know, rules out the possibility of drilling through the deck there, so everything's watertight. This will go on basically like so. Simple. Nice bite. There you go. Okay, very good. All right, so one of the things is when you're doing this, you got to make sure that don't use a drill to screw these in. Make sure you use a screwdriver. Do everything by hand because you don't want to strip out the holes or cause the fiberglass to crack. So just take your time and use the screwdriver. Put a little bit of sealant inside there so nothing backs out later on and everything's nice and watertight. It really doesn't take a whole lot to hold this on there, especially when you're putting in about 60 some screws all the way around. The rub rail's not going anywhere. Okay. Oh, we got the rub rail on. So now the question is, how do you get the rope, the bolt rope, inside the rub rail? This is a very common type of rub rail from the early 80s, 70s, even back in the 60s. You'll find this on a lot of boats. Very salty. It works really well. And now we got to figure out, let's see, does this fit inside there? This is 5/8. I felt like it was, 1/2 inch was too small, so I went with 5/8. Let's see. So the real question is, this is a cross section here. Let's see what happens. Right, that's what you want, tight like that. See? All right. So the question is, how the heck are we going to get it inside here? And what I'm thinking is, with two like spatulas, kind of pry this open and then get this down inside there. There is an actual technique for doing this. It involves using like a piece of PVC tubing. And what you do, you cut your PVC tubing at a 45-degree angle, and you put your line inside the PVC tube, and you use the tube to kind of jam open the rub rail so that you can get the rope seated inside the cavity there. But I got to be honest with you, I wasn't able to actually get this to work. The PVC tubing needs to be very, very thin. The rubber's got to be very pliable, so it's really got to be warmed up. And your screw heads would have to be recessed in such a way that the PVC tube can glide through the cavity. Soapy water as a lubricant might also help. This might be an option for a warmer climate. In the end, I just decided to use some 1/2 inch line. It made everything a lot easier. If you're thinking about restoring a classic sailboat or an old trawler, check out all of the videos on my YouTube channel. Consider joining the workers or taking advantage of my boat restoration consulting services. I offer personal coaching for your boat restoration project. Be sure to like and subscribe. This channel would not be possible without your support. Thank you. This has to be my favorite part of doing one of these restorations. All the little projects come together and you can begin to see what this thing is looking like. Slowly marking the things off of my final list for the little sailboat. I hope you stick with me until we get it to its final completion. If you're interested in this sort of boat restoration, if you enjoy the how-to, check out some of my other playlists about the various projects that I have going on inside the Boat Werks. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I want to thank you for stopping by. We'll see you next time. Stay motivated.